Hello everybody, today we're talking about phishing attacks. This is our cybersecurity topic. I am Evan, and I also worked with Timothy and Ren-Zhi. So phishing is like the low-hanging fruit of info security. That means there's lots of attack venues, but this is the one that kind of exploits the human factor. So it relies on social engineering techniques. And the human factor, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's, you can exploit the computer systems, you can intercept traffic, but the low-hanging fruit is to just attack the employees. Many of them don't have technical knowledge. So here we have a diagram of the activities that employees do that carry some risk. And this comes from a survey. The survey had hundreds of answers, and these are just the things people admitted to doing. So they had to have some knowledge that it was wrong in the first place. So there's probably way more that we wouldn't even know about at all. The most common thing is using a work device for personal activities, reusing passwords, which can, honestly, reusing and sharing passwords can worsen the effects of phishing. Responding to an email or text message from a stranger, which is a clear attack vector for phishing. All in all, 71% of professionals admitted to taking a risky action. So they are self-aware enough to know that they have done one of these things. There's probably another percentage there of people who have done these things and didn't even remember or care to file it away in their memory. Almost all of them knew the risks of doing it, so these weren't accidents. 96% knew the risks. And this happens, people make some sort of trade-off in their heads to go for convenience over security. So obviously there's something, it's not just a knowledge issue because they know what's risky, but they decided the convenience is worth it. So this is going to continue being a big attack vector. Spear phishing is basically more specialized phishing, where phishing in general can often refer to broad attacks where it's just casting a wide net, right? Just throwing a bunch of emails at a network to see what people will fall for and what they won't fall for. Instead, spear phishing is highly personalized. It's rare, but vastly overrepresented in the breaches. It is highly effective. And the main purpose is just to get kind of like an attack vector, to get an entry point into the corporate environment. So they'll get someone, maybe it would be too high profile to get someone, they wouldn't target like the CEO or something with one of these attacks. They'd probably target someone who's a little bit less known, someone who has a little bit less responsibility but still provides a valuable vector into the network. An example of something related to phishing, this is kind of a parallel sort of attack. Toad, telephone-oriented attack delivery. Everyone's been getting these. I've been getting these. I'm sure you have been getting these. These messages that are just some random stuff, some random number you don't know, and they're just saying some stuff that sounds a little vaguely concerning, or sounds like you got some reward waiting for you, or sounds like you gotta pay your parking tickets, or you gotta pay your speeding fines, and it's like you gotta do this now. There's a time limit, and it looks harmless enough. You click on it, and then at that point they are able to further guide you. At the moment that you kind of click into this, you are kind of lending them your ear, so vulnerable people will get further kind of led down the wrong path at that point. And these are super common, 10 million every month. And it's hard to detect them because they can look like authentic messages. It's difficult to find a way to filter these out. And they will come from legitimate domains because the messages, it's hard to filter these out. It's hard for the email services to deny these sort of attackers, because it's kind of hard to detect this sort of activity. So this is relating to network layers here, email authentication, which is something that's supposed to safeguard against email compromise, but you will see that there are ways that attackers get past this. This operates on the application layer. And it uses the SMTP communication protocol to send these emails between the servers. A couple types of protocols here is sender policy framework. So this will first verify the source IP address or the host name against the authorized mail servers. This is only going to make sure it's coming from a legitimate source. Domain keys identified mail, and this will make sure that the sender identity is verified, right? So these kind of are trying. These protocols are kind of trying to prevent invalid traffic, but you'll see that this is not fully effective. Off-the-shelf kits relates to basically kind of an all-in-one environment where attackers will purchase, or they will just be given access to sort of these templates for attacks. So it's not all just savvy attackers that are doing this sort of stuff. They're using very abstracted, they're using high-level tools here, and this increases the number of attackers you can have, the number of effective attackers you have, even ones that that have a less sophisticated background. Maybe they don't even come from a coding background, or they don't have much access to technology, but now they have access to these kits, and they can still participate in these types of attacks. You'll see that these kits, you know, they have all sorts of prevalence and identified attacks coming from these different kits. Here's the EvilProxy framework, and this is a framework used to bypass multi-factor authentication, which a lot of professionals consider kind of the end-all be-all for preventing account compromise. It's no longer a password. Now the person themselves has to do something else on their phone or their email, and once you have that, you know, you can't get into the network. You can't compromise someone's account, right? Well, that's not true, because they use EvilProxy framework, and just as it said, it's a proxy, it's a middleman, and this kind of just allows the traffic to skip an entire step, and the attackers are still able to compromise accounts. A line of defense against this would be sandbox messages, so that would kind of isolate the environment, and with that you could better find the EvilProxy frameworks. Business email compromise attacks, and this is kind of a subsequent step of phishing. Once they would get access to someone, then they have access to compromised email. So common techniques to do this would be impersonation. So they would spoof the email domain, and this requires a few steps. It's pretty difficult to do on your own, but this is something that would be included in some of those Phish kits. So this would not even require very specialized knowledge, as we said previously. So these emails would seem like they're coming from very legitimate URLs, but in reality be coming from a junk domain. These emails will often have a sense of urgency. They could stoop so low as to say, your loved ones, your wife is in the hospital right now, we need you to call now to check her status. And these will pressure the victim into making a quick decision, and they will put their what they perceive to be a threat to their personal life above the business, and understandably so, but it's a very effective attack vector. Now with the surge in AI, it has its place in phishing. AI phishing click rate, right now it's not as effective as human-created attacks, but it provides what's not being accounted for in that number, 11% effectiveness versus 14%. What's not being accounted for is that this is allowing access to a greater number of attacks, because this bypasses language barriers, right? So if someone doesn't have a good grasp of English, an attacker doesn't have a good grasp of English or whatever language their target speaks, a generative AI can allow them to use more natural wording, can allow them to impersonate the personality of someone they're trying to impersonate better. It can help personalize the email. It can help with cultural norms, It's just it's kind of broadening the playing field, so to speak, for the attackers who can't use this. So what we're seeing is broadening the playing field with the Phish kits, and then now with generative AI. More and more people are able to be attackers now. Let's get into consequences of successful phishing. First off, loss of data. They might just take your data, compromise your storage. They might overwrite stuff. They might take it. There's an advanced threat where they install stuff on there, like backdoors. They might have a rat or a backdoor. They might choose to linger instead of, maybe they have some sort of terms of ransomware, but they might decide to linger after that point. You have a persistent threat at that point. Ransomware infection, just straight up financial loss. They might just take money and run. Breach of data, they might decide to publish data, sell the data, right? Because corporate customer data is valuable. They sell these. They get a decent amount of money for it. It's definitely a motivator. Financial penalty, if you have some sort of breach, or you have some sort of breach, or it's discovered that you've had a security violation that led to this, like insurance may not pay out. You might get penalized. Your business might be penalized for that. Account compromise, maybe employees' accounts be compromised. Other malware, they might just throw other stuff on your computer, see what happens. Reputational damage, if you have a customer breach, you're legally obligated to make a release and let everyone know, and that does not look good for your company. And overall, it's disruptive. There's a network outage. It's disruptive. Everything, you have to solve that problem immediately. So let's look at a strategy to combat phishing. One thing businesses do is phishing simulations, right? So you would test your employee base. You would see what's most effective. We'd see a couple examples here. Microsoft password expired. They click it to get a new one. It's actually a bad actor's website, but it might be set up to look like the Microsoft password reset website. Same with the OneDrive account. Same with IT. IT sends you an email, password expiration. They think it's real. Microsoft Teams reply. You got to reply to that Teams reply. Someone wants an update now. You got a voicemail. Check on that voicemail. You show up in LinkedIn, and you check your LinkedIn. It's actually a spoofed website. And there's more things besides just testing your users, making sure they're trained on avoiding these things. Email filtering, catch whatever ones in the net you can, just reduce the volume coming in. Authentication protocols will help prevent domain spoofing. Here's an example. Nice try, Angela. I've been getting these messages. I've been getting these probably like once every couple of days. I'm getting one like this, and it freaks you out at first, but you keep getting them, and you're like, it's definitely. I can't even imagine how many people have fallen for this, because it's convincing. If you didn't have background in cybersecurity, you might click that, and you might get further directions, and you might go some distance along that path they want you to get on. Just out of curiosity, when they did training exercises, these are across like millions of training exercises, and the results show the most fallen for would be deactivation of the OneDrive account. That's a 10% success rate, which is huge. You send that to 10 people, one of them has fallen for it and gone to your website, and potentially their account is compromised at that point. Password expiration is pretty strong. Voicemail is strong. They want to click that voicemail. Here's our citations, and that is the end of our presentation. Hopefully you learned something.